So, breaking news, Edu has been sacked by Forest. Welcome to your Forest news. Hi guys, hope you're doing well, and welcome to the weekend, and welcome to more drama alerts from Forest, because this is how we roll. Hope you guys are doing well. Make sure you've liked, make sure you've subscribed, and make sure you've hyped as well. Someone explain, if anyone knows what this hype thing is, let me know in the comments. I've no idea. And check out the sponsors, OK Jerseys, where you can get your World Cup shirts, like this England one. I was born in Scotland, but you know what? It looks nice. If you want to get that, use code FFTV. You'll get a further 8% off. They got the home and the away kit and all the rest of it as well. Okay, let's jump into the big news. It is kind of semi-unofficially confirmed that Edu has been sacked. Why am I saying this? Because Matteo Moretto has come out and said Edu Gaspar has been dismissed from his role as Global Director of Football for Nottingham Forest. It says this was further reported by Percy in the Telegraph in the last few hours. This has now been confirmed. It will be coming official in the next couple of days. Oof! Bombers all over the place. What does this mean? What happens? Well, what's interesting is he said that in his tweet there, he said that he will be sacked from Forest. But remember, Edu was the global director, so he'd cover Olympiacos, Real Ave, etc., etc. So it is expected that he is gone. It is expected that Forest will announce this in the next few days. It is expected he'll probably get like half a paragraph of a thank you and a goodbye, probably on a tweet somewhere. Why has all this happened? Well, let's bring you back up to date throughout the stuff this week. So as Matteo mentioned there had been some information put out by John Percy. A stay away order was put on Edu from Forest. Now, Percy had said that Forest have told their global head, Edu, of football to stay away from the club as his departure moves closer. Edu's turbulent tenure at Forest is approaching the end after less than 8 months in the role. Then it goes on to talk about kind of how he was appointed and everything else, but the departure was to be expected. Now, how do I feel about all of this? I just feel it's a complete and utter mess. I'll be honest with you. Marinakis has dropped the ball a couple of times this season. You guys know he's my guy. I love him, the Greek father and everything else, right? But there have been so many mess ups this season that have almost brought us back full circle to point number one, which comes back to Edu versus Nuno. Now, I backed Marinakis at the time. I thought he made the right decision. I thought Edu was the one who was going to win because he was higher up the food chain. I still think that's the case. But what you got to take into account is that if 8 months later he's gone and sacked Edu anyway, he's kind of, Marinakis has found himself in a position where I'm not saying Marinakis. I'm saying this is the scenario, otherwise I could get in a lot of trouble. So he's found himself like a guy who's married, and then you know what, he's wanted a little bit on the side, gone and found someone else, tried to keep those two worlds apart, and then she found out about her and her found out about she, and both of them ended up leaving. And Marinakis has found himself without a Nuno now and without an Edu. Like, he didn't have the forward sight to see something like this happening. On top of that, the reports are saying, and what I've heard as well, is that one, Edu was not a popular person with a lot of the back team. And I'm talking like the hierarchy and everything like that. And Edu wanted to be in complete control of what was happening in the club or within his job role of the club. Whereas Marinakis was always ready to butt in whenever he felt he wanted to, because that's what Marinakis does. And I've got to say, on that side of things, I think that's up to Marinakis and he is allowed to do that. Some people would disagree with me. I guess the counter argument would be, well, if you've hired this guy to come in and do his thing, then you're going to have to trust that this guy can come in and do his thing. Otherwise, why spend the money on this guy to do his thing when you would just do it yourself? But that's the way Marinakis works. That's the fire in him. Now, it all stems to this Nuno thing. But I think as a fan base, what it stems to is, was the recruitment good enough in the summer? If the recruitment, I think Ed said this last night on Grumpy Old Reds, make sure you check that out if you haven't watched it already. If the recruitment had been good enough in the summer, let's just say Ndoye came in and was the next Messi. Let's just say Backward came in and was the next R9. And let's just say, I don't know, who else did we buy? Luca came in and was the next Peter Crouch. None of us would be complaining about Edu. In fact, Edu would be like the greatest thing since sliced bread. He really would. But football dictates and results dictate what we think as a fan base and what happens off the scenes. Like if you look at Spurs, come on, get relegated. If you look at Spurs, for example, they about 6 months ago thought they were really good. They were third in the table. They had conceded the least amount of goals and all this bollocks in the Premier League. Their fans weren't protesting about the board at that time. And now that they're crying and they're panicking about getting relegated, suddenly they're trying to organise protests again. Nothing's changed. The same people who were in charge then are still in charge now. And I am talking post-Levy here, by the way, before the Spurs fans start crying in the comments. It's football. My point here is that football results dictate what we think of what's going on behind the scenes. And I think that's quite fair to do that. Because everything in this sport is about what happens on the pitch. This is why I don't like clubs like Brighton or, Bournemouth or these clubs where they think, and Brighton's probably the best example, they try to run it as a business, not a football team. I care about the football. If the football's good, I don't care about the rest. Look at Brighton. They're like, oh, if we bring this player in, we're going to sell him on for profit next season. Let's not even bother putting, his option as a name on the back of the shirt in the club shop because he's not going to be here long enough. And I don't like that. I feel it makes football too sterile and too stale. So Edu's going to go. Now, there is talks that he's going to go to Brazil. Once he leaves Forest, I don't really care where he ends up. And what's going to happen after that and who's going to replace him, we're going to have to wait and find out. So a lot of information is starting to trickle out. Expect this to be made official by Forest, probably, I would guess, and I'm guessing now on Monday, something like that. What they'll try and do is do it just before Forest start to build up to the Midtjylland game. And then what you'll see is a lot of PR about the Midtjylland game, talking about Forest back in the knockout stages of European football, get us hyped up, and then everyone will just nicely forget about Edu. Because let's be real, his tenure at Forest has been extremely forgettable. And one other thing to add as well, Forest were hoping that he would walk away so that they didn't have to pay him any money. So there's a bit of back and forth going on between all that. I'll keep you posted as more information comes in. Make sure you've liked, make sure you've subscribed. I'll put Grumpy Old Reds on the end. And I'll also put on what Potts told us about Edu back in the day before we signed him. So if you haven't seen that, you can't remember it, you want a refresher on it, I'll leave it there for you. Come on, you Reds.